All right, it's Friday, March 3rd. This is an end of the day and end of the week SPY recap. And today we end up with another big green bar, a 2-up bar to the upside, started near the lows of the session, moved up all day long, closed near the highs. And we took out all the pivots that were in play as we moved higher. We took out this pivot, this pivot, this pivot, and this pivot, 4 in a row. And I kind of discussed how it was a chance we would be doing that if we didn't fail right here near the open, near the pre-market highs, maybe taking out one pivot and then reversing. And once we got going, these were the targets, and we broadened out to the upside. I kind of drew a kind of a megaphone look here just to give you a visual that we made the lower lows here, and now we've made higher highs back here. Now, this is an interesting area right here. This is a fair value gap in the daily chart. This could be an area where you roll over to the downside. When you look at, I discussed in the pre-open video again how I wanted to see how this bar closed this week, and obviously it's a big, strong-looking green bar. Kind of has the look of a hammer bar, which is normally a reversal bar back to the upside. So in one sense, I'm certainly expecting those highs to be tested a little bit, and we still have a little room to go in that little daily gap up here. But if you really think about it, this is on a weekly basis a broadening bar, number 3 bar. So this could have just a 3-2 and then a 2 down, as opposed to maybe heading all the way back up here to the highs. We're going to have to see what happens, as opposed to if it was a hammer bar, down here in the middle of the week, I would, or close to the midpoint of the prior week, I would have expected follow through to the upside and maybe continuation. Now, since we just broadened out up and given this 1 bar reversal, I really want to see on the daily chart if this ends up being the type of thing where, even though I expect it'll follow through higher into this zone, do we continue strongly or do we fail? And of course, we'll watch daily price action to figure that out. But in terms of today, what happened was right out of the gates, you had the little neutral bar and then you started up. So you could have bought right here, just seeing if you want what was going to happen today. Went up, you took out the pre-market highs. That was kind of anytime you get a little up pattern inside of the pre-market highs, that becomes your first target. I could see on this third bar how this could have been. There was news released. It's always this 9 o'clock hour sometimes has these quick little volatile moments, but it did come down. It started and came down all the way kind of the midpoint of the first bar. I could see maybe getting stopped out for a small loss there. But as soon as you saw the bar immediately come back up, it was either an opportunity to just re-enter, or if you didn't get out quickly for whatever reason, you're still in the trade. And at that point, it went up all session long. And if you didn't, let's say you got stopped out and you didn't jump back in, it was too quick, and then it went up. Once you saw it up here, orderly pullback, this was a secondary buy on the day, and that could have taken you. At that point, once you were kind of continuing up higher on the day, you had a lot of those pivots on the big picture chart, and that's why price went up all day. And the reason you kind of anticipated that from this short pullback was because at that point on the weekly chart, yesterday we kind of closed a little below the halfway point. Once it kind of held up here on that open, you're above the halfway point of this week. That, in other words, that's like a 2 down failure on the week that comes back through the 50% of the prior week. So you are anticipating the high of that week being taken out. You had 1 day to go. So normally you would like that to happen earlier in the week. We have time to get there. But in this case, with those pivots close by on the daily chart, you had boom, 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 boom. It just took 1 day. A lot of times that's what happens when you see kind of a pivot machine gun, you can call it that. That's why on 1 day, a lot of times you can get big move up. But a lot of times that's just taking out a lot of stops, broadening out, and then starting right back down. It's anyone who got short here on this breakout. Remember we were discussing those 2 inside weeks in here. If you look at it here, it was these double inside weeks. Anyone who sold here short and was trying to hold on, they all got wiped out. So maybe that's all it took, and then we can now, start back down again. But we're gonna, see if price action takes us there. Finally, on the monthly chart, like I discussed, even though we have the 2 down month, we're getting pretty close to the halfway point of this bar. I could see resistance, maybe up in the halfway point of that wick if it really wants to try to extend a little bit. But at some point, if we get above the halfway point of that bar, I have to consider that we're heading back to the highs. I just find this a very interesting area now that you got this gap here, which could be just the rebalancing area before it heads lower. It's also an area where that monthly chart can turn up and then project back to those highs. highs. So whatever's going to happen into early next week is going to kind of be critical about where, if we really go up there and hold, then all of a sudden you have to kind of think that this monthly chart might be just a 2-down failure heading back to the highs. But if we somehow have all kinds of trouble getting through this little gap or something like that and start down, I think that would be the big start of heading possibly lower. We then see if certain setups kind of can get us back to that yellow line to turn the monthly chart red, and maybe, continue. And maybe this was just a 2-day move, so to speak, to get up here. And this month, if it's going to be red, you can almost picture a big tail up here and it turns red. But that's a pretty big move to get, kind of a big tail. Normally, if you're going to get a strong continuation, you just get a little bit of a probe up in there before it heads lower. Like a bar like this, well, I'd have to look for a good one, like here's a day, well, you never know. Here's a downward bar that kind of moved up for a little bit before it eventually moved down all month. So maybe this is just a little bit of an up move to start the month, and we come all the way back down as the month heads on. But we're going to find that out into next week. So anyway, big green day today. Definitely all buys to the upside the whole way. We're in an interesting area here right now to see whether we continue or fail. Price action will lead, will tell us what happens. And, overall, this is kind of, once I saw yesterday's bar, I actually, I shot in my recap video how I wouldn't be surprised to see a lot of this. I could see the broadening lower here with lower lows, and I could kind of visualize that we were heading up into this area possibly, and clearly we did it today. So nice update in the market. We will see what unfolds next week, and it's a very interesting area. I'll get more into this fair value gap, as we talk about the market into next week.